If there's one thing I'm good at, it's starting new game projects, and if there's one thing I'm bad at, it's actually finishing them. To get better at project planning and scope, I decided to create and finish a game in just 2 months, focusing purely on creating something small, polished, and most importantly, completed. Now, if you're a viewer of my channel, you'll know that I primarily make top-down shooters, roguelikes, and platformers. And for this challenge, I wanted to get outside of my comfort zone and create something that I had never made before. So for this one, I've decided to make a rage game. Similar to games such as Getting Over It by Bennett Foddy or Pogo Stuck, I really wanted to create a platformer that was goofy, required skill, and more importantly, will make you snap your keyboard in half when you get really high up in the level and inevitably fall all the way down to the bottom for making a simple mistake. The first thing I thought of to make this game frustrating was ragdoll physics. So I made this little guy, but in this state he was pretty useless. So I made a quick movement script with some animations and got him walking around flailing his body parts all over the place. At first he was sort of just walking around on his knees, which isn't what I wanted, so I just cut his legs in half and he was left with little stumps on a long body. With that out of the way, I started to think of more mechanics to incorporate into the game, as just having platforming would be boring. So after some brainstorming and taking inspiration from Human Fall Flat, I decided to go for picking up and throwing objects, ropes to swing on, as well as jump pads. But after testing this out, while I thought it did look goofy, it wouldn't really be fun. So I went back to the drawing board with the main movement mechanics, and this is what I decided on. Basically, the player can only jump. There would be an arrow to show the player's jump direction, and then when you hold the left mouse button down, it would charge up, and the player would jump when the button was released. The longer you hold the charge for, the higher you jump. So I got to work implementing that, and it took way longer than expected, and by the end of it I wanted to pull my own teeth out, but in the end I got it working nicely. Next up on the to-do list was level design. When making this type of game, I feel like the level design is almost the most important part of the game, as levels need to be so precisely designed with the core mechanics of the game. I started off by importing Kenny's prototype textures and hooked it up with Unity's tile map tools and painted out a quick level. I also set up a smooth camera follow using Cinemachine. And now that I had it all working, I started brainstorming the different areas that the player would have to navigate through. In the end, I decided on 7 different areas. I grabbed some reference pictures and color palettes and sketched out a quick idea and then jumped into Unity to block it out. I then pretty much kept iterating upon the first section of the level until I was happy with it. At this point, I wanted to switch gears slightly and start working on some of the art. Right away I knew I wanted the art to be bold and colourful, with a goofy looking player character. So I chipped away at the player sprite. With the story of the game, the player is a peasant who breaks out of jail. So I took this into consideration when designing him. And this is also tied into why he can only jump, because his hands and feet are shackled. I then set up the sprite sheet in Unity, whipped up some animations, and this was the result. With the character being heaps goofy looking, I really wanted to emphasize squash and stretch animations, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. After that was in and the bugs were fixed for the most part, I switched gears back to the code and design side of things. I didn't want the camera to follow the player throughout the whole game, but set up camera zones per level, so the player would have even more of a visual representation. For the time being, this system works well, and I honestly don't think I'll have to rework it, which is a good feeling. It ended up being just over 100 lines of code, but super flexible and can be repurposed for different things, not just camera zones. And I was thinking of creating a tutorial on the topic of camera switching using this system, so if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But that's all for this devlog. If you enjoyed, give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.